You're watching Ellie from Ellymentry Papercrafting. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator here in the UK. I've been having a little play with the lovely stamp set called Grassy Grove. There's lots you can do with this, and it's one of those that you do actually need to play with to really understand what you can do with it, really. So I've decided to do a kind of autumnal silhouette scene with this one, and this is the kind of thing that turns out different every time you have a go with it. So I'm starting off with a piece of very vanilla cardstock, and I'm just placing it on this. This is just a piece of cardstock I cut and ran through a laminator with a laminating sheet, and then I sprayed it with a temporary glue, and when it dries off it gives you a little tacky surface, which means that you can just place your cardstock on there and it will keep still. And underneath I've just got a non-slip mat, and that really helps when you're blending a lot of colours. The cardstock doesn't move about so much. So the first colour I'm going to use is So Saffron. So I'm just going to take the main element of colour off, and I'm simply going from side to side across my page, and no real direction except that I want to leave a kind of open space in the middle. So that's my So Saffron, and I know it doesn't look as if I've used very much, but I don't want a lot. I just want a little colouring to take the starkness off. The next colour I'm going to use is Pale Papaya, and that was one of last year's in colours, which is still going to be around for another year. And this one I'm going to do something very similar, but I'm going to start by coming in all around the edge and making a kind of vignette effect. Now there's no need to go around the bottom because I'm going to do the bottom in a green, so I'm just concentrating on the edges for now, and then I'm just going to do a few sweeps across like so, which again won't show an awful lot at the moment, but you'll pick it up later. So I'm getting plenty of colour on my brush and just sweeping across this kind of motion, and I'm still trying to leave that lighter space in the middle. So getting plenty, and I'm trying to get some little streaks of colour, so I'm actually going to put more on the end here and not wipe it off on the paper behind, because I want these kind of streaky bits to go across. You can see it kind of coming out now. So that's the Pale Papaya, and then I've got Flirty Flamingo. So as you can see, I'm building up from the palest colour up to the darkest, and now you're going to begin to see some real difference in colour. So again, I'm coming in from the edge to make that kind of vignette look. And I can start to come in a bit heavier with this. And then again, I'm going to come in from the edge, sweep across, but not going in that centre part. I want to keep the centre part as a source of sunlight. So just building that up. And you can put pockets of colour here and there. this will all become apparent later. And again, I'm going to get the tip of this with quite a strong colour and come across with some streaky bits. So, you know, when you get that sunset or sunrise, you get streaks of different colour. So that's enough. Don't overdo it, you know, just bits here and there, and it will come together at the end. Bit darker now with Calypso Coral, and I'm doing exactly the same thing again. You can use the same brush for this because they're the same family of colours. And you obviously just use the lighter colour first. And again, I'm coming in on the edge quite a bit harder now, and I'm sweeping across from the outside in, just building up those layers of colour like so. And again on the edge of my brush to get some streaky bits. We want that kind of streaky effect. Okay, so that's the Calypso Coral, and I hope you can see that we're kind of building up a nice, as I say, either sunset or sunrise. And then the last colour I'm going to use is Pumpkin Pie. Get the worst off, come in on the outside with my vignette look, and then streak across, bringing in that colour, keeping that area nice and light. And again on the tip of the brush, just coming in with some streaks of colour across the sky here and there. Okay, so that's my coloured sky finished, and then I'm just going to bring in my green brush, and I think I'll go for Mossy Meadow here to just come along the bottom. And this one isn't going to show up a lot, but I just need a little bit of background colour along the bottom here in the green. And again, it doesn't matter if it's streaky, it will add quite a nice effect there, and that's all I need in the green. So I'm just going to take that away and put the lids on my ink pads. And then I'm going to start with my silhouette stamping. So from the Grassy Grove then, I'm bringing in the small stamp here and my black, basic black ink pad. This is the old style ink pad, which just pop in there. I just find if I put it in something like that, it doesn't move around so much. And then I'm just inking it up, and I'm going to go all across this piece of cardstock, but I'm starting, I don't know, about an inch-ish up. And I'm going to start off the page like so. And it doesn't have to be a continuous line. You can stagger the bottom line so that you don't get a harsh line, because I'm going to do another stamp across the bottom. And again, it doesn't matter if they're not all dark. Different shades throughout this card will actually add to it. It will give a little bit of depth to the scene, which is it's what you need when you're building up a silhouette scene. You want some to be in the foreground and some to be in the background. Sorry about the noise in the background. I'm trying to open my stamp and scrub so I can clean my stamps off and reuse the blocks. So the next one I'm going to use is the big long one here, and that's the one I'm going to stamp right in the foreground. So that's going to cover up some of those little stamps here, which is why I said it doesn't matter if they're not all lined up. In fact, I think they look better if they're not. And again, I'm going to start off a little bit, and you'll see now why I wanted the green in here. Okay, so bring this up again and move it along so it's not going to stop all in one place. And here's my little bits of green, and then you can just go in randomly and do second generation stamping just to build up a little bit more layers. Okay, and if you don't like the larger gaps here, again just ink the end here and you can just cover them up a little bit, but that gives an illusion of some undergrowth and some little bits growing up a bit higher. So that's my sky done and my foreground stamped. The next stamp I'm going to bring in is the Fir Trees here, and pop that on my block like so. And I don't want the trunks of these trees, so I'm going to ink it up like so. You can see through these stamps with the acrylic blocks, so I'm not inking up the trunks there. Now this fir tree, I want some to look like they're in the foreground, but I want some far away looking trees, so I'm not going to re-ink, and I'm just going to stagger the height and just put some in like that, and these look as if they are in the distance. Okay, so I'm going to do that again. Now I'm going to stamp over, but it's okay because they'll look as if they're behind, some way behind. I'm going to bring this one down a bit, and again put some secondary like that. And then I'm going to do similar over the other side. So the first stamp, the second generation, and a third generation. And then I'm just going to do one more here. Didn't get that tree very well, so we'll just stamp over that. Okay. So that's all the trees I want there. I'm just going to do a little bit of secondary generation stamping here to get those ones in the distance. And don't worry about them not coming out properly, because anything in the distance is always faded and it's absolutely fine. So that's those two stamps cleaned off. Now I've used a punch, a 2-inch punch, to cut out this circle, and I'm just going to place it in that part that I had nice and left nice and pale, and I'm popping that in there. And I'm going to bring back the Calypso Coral stamp pad and the brush that I used, which was this one. I'm just going to give it a brush off because if you remember, I built up some darker colours, so I just want to get the worst of that off. So this will emphasise the moon. Yeah, we've decided this is a sunset. And go around, just lift it up a little bit, and if you want a little bit more contrast, just go around a little bit more. Okay, that's enough for me. So that gives us the illusion of the moon. And then from the Mountain Air stamp set. There are these lovely tiny little birds, and I just want to stamp these a little bit across there to look as if they're flying off into the sunset. I'm going to use it full strength, sort of just like so. Then I didn't mean to re-ink that, so let me stamp this off. So stamp it off, so it would have been stamped off if I hadn't re-inked. And then I'm just going to turn it a little bit and turn it a little bit more, so it looks like those birds are all flying off into the distance. Now I want this to look as if we're looking through, you know, this is a clearing and there's some leafage coming around the edge, sort of making a kind of curtain effect, if you like. So I've just brought in a couple more stamp sets that have some nice leaves, and that's Forever Fern, and I'm going to use this one. And the other one is Eden's Garden, and I've got this one. And that's just to give some leaves falling from the top, just to give that, as I say, like we're looking through some leaves. So again, I'm going to use the basic black ink. So I'm only going to stamp a little bit coming down, so I'm going to do it upside down, ink that up well, and I'm just going to come down like so, just randomly, some lower than others, and I just want them on one side. I might put a few more in once I've got the other leaves in. Let's see if I need any more of the bigger ones. So I hope you get the illusion that there's just some trees hanging down there, giving us that little sort of curtain effect. So I'll bring a little bit more in there and there. Okay, I'm not going to put them around that side. I don't think we need them. Now I've prepared a card base, and my card base is my usual size, which is what we call in Britain an A5. So it's a piece of cardstock that you normally buy, A4, scored and folded down the middle, and the finished card measures 8 1/4, and it's about 5 3/4. So I've made a mat which is just 1/4 inch smaller, so it's 8 inches by 5 1/2, and that will give me a little 1/8 inch border all the way around. And the piece that I've stamped on, I've cut at 1/4 inch smaller, 1/2 inch smaller, which gives you 1/4 inch border all the way around, and I think that really makes this pop. So I'm going to now mount this piece onto my frame, and incidentally I've gutted that, as you can see, so as not to waste cardstock. And then pop it on here, leaving about 1/4 inch all the way around, as near as I can get it. And then I like to use my bone folder to just gently go all around the edge to spread out the glue and make sure it sticks. Now sometimes if you're a bit worried that you might smudge your ink, turn it over and do it from the other side. Okay, and then that black really brings this to life, and then pop it on that and it pops the whole thing forward. So there we go. Just going to open my card out. I've said before, it's much better to use it when it's flat, when you want to place something. I think that's pretty much centered and all the way around, so that's lovely. Just to finish this all off, there's a lovely deer stamp here, but he's a bit too big for this undergrowth, I think. Unless you, I mean, you could possibly place him right at the front there, but then he would be hidden with that. So what I've done is I've taken the dies that you can get to go with this, and I've cut out the tiny little deer in black. And I'm going to put him kind of like there, so he looks as if he's watching those birds flying away. So let's pop a little bit of glue on the back of my deer. For the legs, I'm just going to put a bit of glue on the back of my hand and just put the legs over the top. They're so tiny, I don't want to get too much glue there. I wanted to put him just to one side, like so. And there you have it, my lovely silhouette using the Grassy Grove. I hope you've enjoyed that video. If you did, I'd love it if you gave me a thumbs up to support my channel. Share with all your friends. You will find a link to the digital downloadable current catalogues and also a link to my online store. So if there's anything you'd like to purchase, just use the link. Thank you very much indeed for watching today. Hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.